Hey guys, how's it going? Robert Warshak here, and as we know, with the release of Rise of the Shadows, we had Hall of Fame, card rotation, new cards, so of course the decks that we're going to see have changed. The decks that people are playing have changed, and my most common question is, hey Rob, what are the best decks right now? What should I be playing? And what decks are kind of like taking the lead or, you know, pulling ahead from some others? So in this video, I'm going to go over, out of our hours and hours and hours of playing so far since the release, these are the top 5 decks that kind of have stood out to me as being very powerful. A lot of people are playing them. There's a lot of renditions of them, so it's not just like one way to play them. And they overall have a really high win rate. So let's get into it. Let's pull up the deck list. First deck we're going to talk about is the Token Druid. So as the Token Druid isn't necessarily a new class, they did get a ton of new tools to be able to allow them to be able to swarm the board early. So we're going to briefly cover the deck, the cards that make it really good, and maybe some pros and cons of the deck. I don't want to spend too much time on this as the expansion is very fresh and these decks probably will change. But right now, these are my builds. This is what I'm playing, and they're doing very well. Again, you can change it as you see fit. These are not final renditions, guys. So as we know, Token Druid and the early stages of the game, mid stages of the game, and late stages of the game, all it wants to do is get board pressure with small, not even that resilient, but just small, overwhelming number of minions. So Acorn Bear, you know, a 1-mana 2/1, make 2 1s. Dream Guardians, make 2 minions. Power of the Wild, buff your minions. We have the Mark of the Loa, generate 2 minions or buff a minion. Soul of the Forest, make more minions sticky. Violet Teacher, make minions. Whispering Woods, make minions. Force Aid makes minions. As you can see, the whole point of the deck is just generate these small minions, and then from there buff them up or use cards like Savage Roar to be able to do burst damage to take your opponent down from, you know, anywhere between 15 to maybe even 30 life. I mean, multiple games when we post our Token Druid decks, which by the way, all of these decks, guys, they will be posted shortly onto the YouTube, you know, with whether it be a deck guide or just going over the deck. These decks will be posted within the next week or two. On top of that, we have Sonaris to buff the board with 2/2s, or summon 2 2/2s, or we have Onyxia, which again makes a whole bunch of 1/1s on the board, so it's similar to the Whispering Woods, but it also has the 8/8 body attached to it. On top of that, we have the Floop. The reason is Floop combos with both of these really well. So it's basically like having a third Sonaris and Onyxia with the cheap mana cost of 4. We also can, you know, Floop Archmage Vargoth, but ideally, you know, being able to Floop a Sonaris or the Onyxia is incredibly powerful. So heading on to the Murloc / Overload Shaman, pretty interesting deck. Murlocs are back. The Underbelly Angler and Soul of the Murloc are just so good, and the Toxfen is really disgusting as well in regards to trading purposes. So just taking a look at what this deck does, gets on the board early, does a ton of damage by turn, you know, 3 to 5, and if they don't kill you by turn 3 to 5, or you're still at a semi-high life total, Bloodlust, Reign of Toads, it's just this deck, early game, resilient minions that generate other minions. Soul the Murloc, minions dies, generate more minions. You can kind of see what's going on here. Thunderhead, it runs Zap and Lightning Bolt. Those are overload cards, generate 2 1/1s. Having 1/1s on the board are good for cards like Bloodlust and Soul the Murloc. So everything just synergizes really well together. Again, guys, if you look at this, you're like, I haven't seen this rendition of Murloc. Why don't you play this instead? You can play those cards instead, and you can let me know how you do with them. Because again, guys, these are my builds. I get it every time, but I just want to like try to clarify it as much as I can. Again, these are not final renditions of the deck guides. It's just what I see and what I think is going to be good right now, and you can get some good wins with. And also, again, these decks are fun. Like, the main thing is, I don't want to show you a deck that isn't fun but wins, because if you're playing video games and you're not having fun, what the hell are you doing, guys? Heading on over to the Rogue deck. So this is probably the most popular deck on ladder, followed up by Warrior. The Rogue and the Warrior decks are the 2 most popular classes, making up about 50% of the classes that I've been playing against. And this is just a tempo rogue. I mean, it's got the early game package of, like, you know, Southsea Deckhand, Evil Miscreant, Edwin's, Hench Clan Thug, SI Agents. The new Waggle pick allows for basically an extra Shadow Step, which is why this deck doesn't run Shadow Step, is because you basically have it built into the weapon. You also can run Shadow Step, but it's just an extra card, and it's kind of not a win more, but it's not a good top deck. The Waggle pick is 8 damage plus a Shadow Step. We have the Captain Greenskin to, of course, they upgrade the Waggle pick. And we also have the new Tog Waggle in this deck. So there's a couple renditions of this deck running around. There's one that runs like Vendetta, and it runs like Blink Foxes, and it runs the new 4-mana 4/3. That's just another version of this Tempo Rogue list. So if you like that version better, you can go with that. But both of them basically do the exact same thing, and that's get on the board early, generate a lot of value through, you know, Waggle Pick, Captain Greenskin, the Raiding Party, which is a fantastic draw card, and then of course finishing off with like the Togwaggle or the Myra's Unstable Element to keep your hand full and to keep the board full as well. So moving to a deck that was either going to be really, really powerful or really, really bad, that's going to be the Bomber Warrior deck. There's, again, all of these decks have a ton of different renditions to them, guys. This is just my rendition as of now, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to change it. But this is what I've been rocking. It has close to like a 60-65% win rate. It's the bomber / control warrior deck. There's one that run more bomber style cards. There's one that, you know, runs no bombs. It's just a fatigue warrior. But warrior is warrior. You armor up. You're very defensive. You use bombs to deal the damage that your minions aren't doing because your minions aren't overwhelmingly powerful. This is one of the few classes right now that has the sort of like, you know, Death Knight cards. It's not a Death Knight, but Dr. Boom, Mad Genius, Hagatha, Draxus, Vol'jin, those are kind of like, you know, Draxus it's good, but I don't think as powerful as some of the others, because Draxus has limitations with going down to 15 life. But regardless, I'm pretty sure all of the decks with the DKs are going to be some of the best decks upcoming right now. So, you know, Shaman and Hunter is kind of like, you know, funky right now because no one's really had like a really good breakout deck. But Warrior, as we know, this is a really solid deck. A lot of people are playing it. Blastmaster Boom's fantastic. Bombs do well. Omega Devastator, holy snap. Omega Devastator is so good. And, you know, Dinomatic is good as we know it. So if you love control decks and you like Warrior, this is the hot pocket right now, even though I don't necessarily like hot pockets. Moving to our last deck, that's going to be the Zoo deck. Zoo has been around forever. It doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So if you want a cheap, very aggressive board-centric deck, and you've already had a lot of Zoo cards, but there's a new splash to it. So this has all of the things that Zoo normally has. You know, if you look at the curve of this deck, it basically maxes out at 3 mana. The Magic Carpet, and then most of the time Sea Giant, you know, is a very inexpensive minion. So very, very fast game deck, very cheap. And then you got with the splash of the new Arch Villain Rafam. So, for example, you're a Zoo deck. You throw up on the board multiple times. After you've played all your minions, you can't seem to win. Your opponent is outvaluing you. You know, you don't have a lot going on anymore. You drop Archvillain or Fom. All of your deck becomes legendaries, and all of a sudden you can now sustain against maybe like sort of like a mid-range / control deck. Granted, so it has all the elements of a very fast, super paced aggro deck that basically beats other aggro decks. And it has the ability to go, you know, towards the mid to late game with Archvillain and Rafam. Really interesting deck. It looks like, Rob, what the hell is this deck? It just looks bad. There's no, you know, Doomguard anymore or any of that. Surprisingly, I was watching a few top 100 legend players that they ran into this deck quite a few times. Maybe not card for card this exact deck, but a deck like within 25 cards of this deck, and it actually performed very well, and multiple of these people were in top 20 legends. So if they're playing the deck, obviously there's something here. But regardless, this is good stuff. These are the decks that I think will do well for you guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed, and if you have and you use any of these decks, I know I've never said this before, this is the first time I'm going to say this in any video I think ever. If you use any of the decks and you like the video, throw a like, throw a comment. They actually really help the video do better over time, and some people don't even know like liking, commenting is actually a feature. So this is actually, you know, could enlighten some of you. So with that, thank you guys for watching. I will catch you in the next video, of course, and be sure to check out these videos when I pump them out of all of the decks we just covered. So with that, I'm Robert Warshak, and happy whatever the hell day it is.